Hi, everybody. I'm Rita Morricone. I'm the Regional Manager of Education USA for the Southern Cone countries. That's Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Paraguay, and Uruguay. So welcome for parents and students that are here today and guidance counselors. I have the pleasure of introducing you Josh Smith. He's the team lead of international eligibility for NAIA, NAIA, which is the National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics. I think in our region, we love to call you NAIA, but I know it's a soup letter, and we're just going to work with however you call yourselves. And I also would like to welcome Grant Conway. Grant is the eligibility coordinator for the National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics. And today they're going to be talking to you about NAIA and sports scholarships. So, Josh, Grant, welcome. Thank you for being here today. This session is being recorded, so all of you that have registered to be here will receive the recording later on. If you want Josh and Grant and share your slides, we can also send that as well. And they will take questions at the end of the presentation. Josh, Grant, welcome. The floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We just really do want to start by thanking Rita and Anna just for helping coordinate this webinar. We really do love working with Education USA. They all do such fantastic work in supporting students and parents who are interested in studying in the United States. We also want to thank you all for taking time out of your day to learn more about the NAI and the opportunities our athletics association offers international students. So whether you're a student yourself or a parent of a student who's interested in coming to the US to study, earn a degree, and compete in a sport you love, we just want to say welcome, and we're looking forward to our time together today. For our agenda, we'll take some time to introduce ourselves a little bit more about who we are and provide you with an overview of the NAI. We'll talk about the recruitment process and scholarship opportunities through university athletics, as well as the eligibility process and eligibility requirements specific to the NAI. We also gathered a few helpful resources that we will send out following the webinar that can help you learn more about the NAI and how to navigate the process. And of course, as Rita mentioned, we'll have some time at the end for just any questions that you might have regarding the presentation. All right, so we'll begin with introductions. As Rita mentioned, my name is Josh Smith, and I'm the team lead of international eligibility here at the NAI Eligibility Center. I have been with the NAI Eligibility Center since 2015 in a variety of roles. I've also worked on campus in the International Support Services Office of a university here in the US. And my role on campus was to lead new international student orientation, just helping international students get used to their new campus, their new community, and get them connected to different clubs and organizations and things like that. So I'll go ahead and let Grant introduce himself as well.
Yeah, so my name is Grant. I have been with the NAIA for almost a year now as an eligibility center coordinator. As a coordinator, I have the opportunity to work with a lot of different teams, such as our documents team helping with transcripts, our customer relations team just answering phone calls and email inquiries from our membership, our students and parents. And then also I have a hand in reviewing eligibility for our domestic students here in the US and then our international students as well. Prior to my time at the NAIA, I spent the past 5 years in a college here in the US earning a degree. And then I was also a track and field student athlete as well. And I competed in the hurdles. So currently, along with working here at the NAIA, I'm also coaching track and field at a local high school. So I do feel like that I have a good amount of experience both being a student athlete and working with them on a daily basis. So really my goal of this presentation is just to use some of these experiences that I've had to just provide some guidance for all of you. Josh, you're on mute, sorry.
Thought I hit that. So just to start off with, we wanted to provide you with an overview of the NAI. But before we get into that, we wanted to kind of let you know a little bit more about university athletics in the United States. So in the United States, there are around 800,000 students who participate in university or college athletics. And we call these students specifically student athletes. And what that really means is that students are they're students, so they're typically pursuing a university degree while also competing on a team that represents their university in sports competitions against other universities. And so university athletics is really an extension of your academic experience. So you are a university student first and then an athlete. So we have student athletes. This also means that your studies and academics are really connected to your ability to participate on your university team. And universities that have athletics are typically grouped into what we call associations. So groups of universities, so these are like groups of universities, and there are a few different associations here in the United States. But we wanted to share specifically who we are as the NAI and what makes our association distinct. So the NAI, as Rita mentioned, stands for the National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics. And there are essentially two things that really set us apart compared to other athletics associations here in the US. So first of all, our focus is on smaller universities. So our groups, I guess you could say, of universities are usually smaller institutions here in the US. And we're going to talk in a different slide kind of what that means for you as an international student, what a smaller university might mean for you. Second, we are a character-driven athletics association. So we want to empower you with the values and skills to be leaders. And we want to instill those values during your time as a university student, but also after you graduate. So when you start your careers or families, or just to be good citizens of your communities. We have character development programs built into our athletics departments and our championship events. And throughout the year, we recognize students, coaches, athletic programs, and even entire universities that exhibit what we call the champions of character core values. And those are listed here being integrity, respect, responsibility, sportsmanship, and servant leadership. So that's who we are as an association and what really sets us apart. And we want to show you how this plays out and what it's like to experience the NAI. So we have a quick video for you. Awesome. So we saw some of these numbers in the video, but in the NAI, there are 83,000 student athletes competing in 29 different championship sports across our 258 member universities. And I know this slide says 28 championship sports, but we have recently added men's lacrosse as the 29th championship sport. Our member institutions collectively offer $1.3 billion in athletic scholarships, and Grant's going to touch on that a little bit later about just a little bit more information about scholarships. As mentioned, we offer 29 championship sports, and we'd also love to just kind of hear maybe what sports you might be interested in participating in. So if you'd like, feel free to type in the chat what sports you might be interested in playing in the United States. But the most popular sports for international students include soccer, volleyball, basketball, track and field, baseball, golf, and tennis. Our championships are held across the United States. So if an international student athlete gets to compete in one of our national championships, it often provides a really cool way for that student to travel and see other parts of the United States. Of the 83,000 athletes competing in the NAI, 12,000 are international students. And then kind of specific to this particular region, some of the countries that comprise of our top 20 that you all are from include Brazil coming in at number 5, Colombia at 6, Mexico at 12, Argentina at 14, and Venezuela at 18. And I think we kind of saw, but most students from the countries represented here today are seeking eligibility in soccer, volleyball, and tennis. I thought it'd also be really cool to share with you how international students have been represented in some of our most recent championships. So this is a photo from our men's tennis national championship. Usually teams that win the national championships get to hold up what's called the red banner. And so we say a lot of our championship events are the battle for the red banner. So to win the red banner and get to hold that up in addition to the trophy. But in some of our most recent championships, the men's soccer champion had 12 international players on their roster, with 5 of those players from Brazil and 1 from Uruguay. Similarly, the women's soccer champion had 9 international players on their roster. The men's volleyball champion had 7 international players, with 2 from Colombia. The women's tennis champion had 5 international players on a 6-woman roster, with 1 player from Colombia and 1 from Venezuela, while the men's tennis champion, again pictured here, had 8 international student athletes, or had 8 international players on a 9-man roster, with 2 players from Argentina. So you can see international student athletes have been well represented in the NAI and international championships, and particularly from the countries that are present here today. And then just a quick word about our institutions. As I mentioned, our focus is really on small colleges and small college athletics. And so our 250 member institutions have an average full-time enrollment of around 1,800 students. A majority of our institutions are private and faith-based and offer an average of 18 sports. The average number of student athletes at each institution is around 346, but there are some institutions in which up to 90% of their student body are also student athletes. We see both the enrollment size and the percentage of student athletes at each institution as a huge advantage, especially for international students. And so our small campuses often lead to smaller class sizes, so you're able to know your professors, different administrative staff, and other students on a more personal level. Knowing and being able to build connections with these key groups is going to be really big for your academic success. And because a pretty significant percentage of the student body at NAI institutions are often athletes as well, international students find an almost immediate source of community through their team and their athletic programs. And so we would strongly encourage you to think about where you'll be most successful as a student, because remember, you're a student first, and then and athletics is just an extension of your academics. And so a small university can often help you build a strong support network. And maybe you can build that network a little bit more quickly than you would be able to at some larger state universities here in the US. So now we'll transition over to Grant. If you believe a small college or university might be the best fit for you, I encourage you to listen and maybe take some notes, because Grant is going to be sharing how to potentially get recruited at one of our institutions, and then just some potential scholarship opportunities.
Yeah, thank you, Josh. So just the first thing that I think can be helpful early on in the recruitment process for you all as students is to just make a list of schools that interest you. So this was something that I did during my own recruiting process, and I feel like it was pretty beneficial in determining for what I was looking for in a school. And then once I was able to figure out what I was looking for, I could make a list of schools that met all these requirements that I was looking for. So a few things that I found helpful when considering what school was right for me. And hopefully this can help you all when considering what schools you're looking for, what you're looking for in a school. But the first thing I recommend is just considering what the enrollment size is. So as we previously mentioned, we're the experts in the business of small college athletics. So what this means is that most of our NAIA schools have enrollments that fall within the range of 1,000 to 3,000 students on average, but there are a handful that do exceed over 5,000 in enrollment, and then there are a few that are even below 1,000 enrollment. So overall, there are NAIA schools of all sizes. So no matter what you're looking for, you will be able to find a school that fits your needs. The next thing to consider is schools that can be found in rural and urban cities. So, what this means is our member institutions can be found anywhere from larger urban cities where populations are over 100,000 people to smaller, more rural towns that see populations of 10,000 people or even smaller than that in some instances. Also, the NAIA has a variety of schools that are public and private. As Josh had previously mentioned, there are a good number of private schools in the NAIA, and those do typically have some sort of religious affiliation with them, while our public institutions do not always have that. Additionally, you should think about what degree and what sports you're interested in. Unfortunately, not all of our NAIA schools offer all of the 29 championship sports that we have, and not all schools are going to have every single degree program either. So again, just researching and finding what schools meet your requirements is going to be really important. So looking at this map over here to the right that I have on the PowerPoint, this just gives you a brief understanding of where all of our member institutions are. As you can see here, they are spread out all over the United States, along with one down here in the Virgin Islands. And then we also have some up here in Canada as well. So as you start the recruiting process, the most important thing to remember about the NAIA is going to be that the rules are really easy to understand. We are very unique in that there aren't any restrictions on students' abilities to reach out to coaches and when coaches can respond. So what this means is that if you want to start reaching out to a coach, during early on in your high school or secondary school journey, that is okay. Or if you want to wait a little bit longer, that's okay too. There really is no timeline of when you can start. You can really just start whenever you want. There's also no limit to the number of times a student and coach can contact each other. And then there are many ways that students and coaches can communicate with each other. And again, we don't have any restrictions on that as well. So some ways that this can be done is you can communicate through email, you can give them a phone call, a text, and you can even message them on social media. So just a variety of different ways overall. In my own personal experience, I have done all these things. I have called coaches, I have emailed them, texted them, reached out to them on social media, and I felt like I had a lot of good success and received a lot of responses back. So I just encourage all of you to not be afraid to be the one that reaches out first. Don't always expect coaches to contact you first because that is not the case most of the time. They're not gonna be able to go out and find every single person that they're interested in and reach out. So really just you all being proactive and initiating that first contact is going to be important. So really what we want to emphasize about recruitment in the NAIA is that students and families are going to set the terms for communication with the coaches, not us at the NAIA. So we prioritize the development of that student and coach relationship. So having these more relaxed rules can allow that to happen. The NAIA does believe that it is important to develop these relationships during the recruitment process because it will ultimately translate to a better on-campus experience for both you as the athlete and the coach. Another thing that can be helpful during this stage of recruitment is just going ahead and registering and creating a profile with us on Play NAIA, which Josh will go into more depth on later. As students are becoming more serious about attending an NAIA school, creating a profile can be beneficial for both you as the students and the coaches. We do see a lot of international students waiting until the last minute to create this profile, which can ultimately cause a delay in receiving an eligibility decision. It can usually take the students actually getting on campus in the United States and having their coach telling them to do it for it to actually get done. And it does take about 12 business days for us to complete an international student's eligibility decision. So the sooner that you're able to get registered, the better chance you'll have of competing as soon as possible. Registering early on can also provide you some benefit during the recruitment process. Coaches will be very appreciative that you've been proactive and not waited until you got on campus to start the process. And also, if you do it early enough too, you can reach out to your coach and ask any questions and have them help you guide you through the process. And so really it just helps speed everything up for your benefit. So looking at a few recruiting tips and learning from my own experiences, I've created a short list here of just some helpful tips that I think can be beneficial for first-time student athletes to consider about the recruiting process. The first is to just start researching schools and, again, making a list of ones you're interested in, using the things that I talked about above, that you can base your decisions off of. So if that's, again, the enrollment size, if it's located in a big town or a small town, if it's public or private school, if it even has the degree you're wanting or the sports you're wanting, just things like that. And as you narrow down that list, start researching those coaches and athletes at the schools you identified. This can be done by visiting colleges and universities' athletic websites, which are available for anyone to access. And they contain just a lot of helpful information, such as phone numbers and email contacts for all the coaches and staff. You can also find out here what sports they're offering, and you can look at the rosters for who is currently on the team. And I think this is also another good resource just to get on, and you can find coaches on these websites, and they usually have a bio about them, and you can just read up on any successes they've had, maybe some successful athletes they've coached, how many championships they've won. Their bio might talk about just kind of their coaching philosophy and what they're trying to achieve and do. And so I think that is just pretty important in looking at, what are you wanting out of a coach? Do you want a successful coach? Do you want a coach who's new? And so just considering those things as well. Also on these athletic websites, you can look at the team's roster for the sport that you're wanting to participate in, and just look at maybe who they already have that is in your same position. So for me, this is one thing I did. I looked at, okay, who else is in my position currently, and do they have a lot of them on the roster, and would I be able to fit in and make an impact on the team right away? Or is there already 4 or 5 people that are on the team, and I'm going to have to, sit behind them and kind of wait, or can I go and make an immediate impact? So, that's something else that you can research as well. So after you've kind of done that and made your list, I just encourage you to actually make a physical list or make a list online or something, and just start writing down the schools and then the coach's name and email and phone number that you find online, and then just start reaching out. This will be a very important part, but I also want you to know that each message you send to each coach needs to be unique. Do not just copy and paste the same email or copy all the coaches in the same email. They need to be unique for each coach, and just really make yourself stand out. Think about 1 or 2 facts or questions through the research you've done, and bring that up in your email. You could maybe start out a message being like, hello, coach, congratulations on the recent championship you won, or something like that, that just shows you've taken the time to do research about their school. And again, you can contact coaches in a variety of ways. And one thing I do want to point out is that if you do decide to use social media as a route for that, or even if you don't, I see a lot of benefit in students using their social media as a platform to put all of their athletic and academic information on. So in your bio section on your social media, you can put what sport you're playing and maybe just a few of your stats or something like that. Put a link to a highlight video if you have one, and then just make posts and share posts about some of your athletic success, so that if a coach does just look you up on Google, or if you do message them from social media, they'll be able to just kind of view your profile and your account on social media there, and just read a little bit about you without you even having to type up a whole paragraph to reach out. So I know this was a lot of information about recruiting, but overall, just do some research on some schools and create a list, make yourself stand out, And don't be afraid to be the one that reaches out to coaches first. Don't sit back and wait for them to do all the work. Okay, now transitioning into scholarships. When it comes to earning a scholarship at an NAI institution, the first thing that I want to make clear is that we do not handle scholarships here at the NAI Eligibility Center. The colleges and universities are going to handle all of the financial aid for the students on campus. So regardless of if a student is being given an academic scholarship, an athletic scholarship, or really just any aid at all, the school is going to combine that all together, and that will become the total financial aid package that the student gets offered by the coach and the school. So adding on to that, yes, students can earn multiple types of scholarships, and there are many academic ones that can be applied for as well. And I know that there are even some international specific scholarships at some institutions. So when you are reaching out and talking to coaches throughout the recruiting process, this could be something that you bring up to them and ask them about just any opportunities that there are to apply for scholarships at their school. Students also often wonder if they can participate in more than one sport and receive a scholarship for both. And the answer is yes. You can play more than one sport and receive a scholarship for both. However, I do want to point out that a common thing students don't always realize is that even in cases where you are playing more than one sport, getting a full scholarship is not always guaranteed. From my own experience, I have talked with many student athletes who do think they will receive some sort of full scholarship that covers the entire cost of college. However, this actually comes as a rarity, and most will only receive partial scholarships. So even if a coach is not offering you a full scholarship right away, see if there are any additional academic scholarships that you can apply for at the university once you're already there that can, help cover some more of that cost of school. I do also want to just emphasize again to keep working hard right now on your academics during your time now and whenever you get to a university someday, just because as we've previously mentioned, athletics are an extension of your academics here in the United States. So just having good grades can not only help you be eligible and stay eligible, but it could also help increases your chance of getting a better scholarship. So again, as you just go through the recruitment process, when the time is appropriate, don't be afraid to ask coaches about what opportunities there are for scholarships. So now I'm going to give it back to Josh. He's just going to give you all a brief overview of the eligibility process and some of the requirements that we have for students to receive an eligibility decision.
Sweet. Thanks, Grant. Yeah, so like Grant mentioned, we're going to talk about the eligibility process and then the academic and athletic requirements that we look at to determine if a student is eligible to compete in the NAI at an NAI institution. Today, we'll be talking really generally about what makes a student eligible, trying to provide just basic information, but we do want you to know that we do look at students on a case-by-case basis. So there may be some exceptions or additional rules you may need to meet based on a specific circumstance, but we want to give you at least the base information. So first, here's kind of the base level of what we're looking at to determine if you're eligible to compete in the NAI. And those two things are seasons of competition and terms of attendance. So in the NAI, you have 4 seasons of competition to play a sport at an NAI institution, but you might use one or more of your 4 seasons of competition by competing at another university, a non-NAI university, or by competing in a professional or semi-professional league, team, or event. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a coming slide. The other main factor we look at is how many semesters you have been enrolled at a university. So in the NAI, you have 10 semesters to compete in your 4 seasons of competition. And so another way to put this is you have 5 academic years to play in 4 seasons. At the NAI, we define a term of attendance as any semester in which you were enrolled in 12 or more credit hours in the US credit hour system. 12 credit hours in the US is typically considered full-time enrollment. You might also use a term of attendance when you compete for a university. And so this kind of brings us to the NAI Eligibility Center where Grant and I work. So through the eligibility process that we're going to describe here, the NAI Eligibility Center determines how many seasons of competition and how many semesters you have to compete at the NAI level. So what is the process of finding out if you're eligible to compete at an NAI college or university? So again, this is a really high-level overview of the eligibility process, but you will start by registering with Play NAI, which is our online eligibility platform. On this platform, you'll create a profile listing your academic and athletic histories. You will then need to send in some documentation to the Eligibility Center based on the information you enter on your profile. And then after all documents are received, an Eligibility Center representative will review all your information and apply the eligibility requirements. So to register, you'll go to play.mynai.org. You'll enter your email and create a password. There is a $160 registration fee for students registering for Play NAI. And then after you're registered, you'll receive a 7-digit Eligibility Center identification number, or ECID, that is unique specifically to you. And so this number is really important for you to write down, as you'll need to provide that number to the coach that is potentially recruiting you, so the coach can add you to what's called a short list. And that list is the list of students that a coach is actively recruiting. After registering, you should frequently check your Play NAI profile, as you will have a task list. Essentially, that task list is a list of to-dos with steps you need to take in order to receive an eligibility decision. One of the first tasks you'll need to do is it's called the Complete Your Profile task. And essentially, this task is going to ask you about two main areas. So first, it's going to ask you about your academic history, including when and where you graduated from high school or secondary school. You'll also need to list any university or post-secondary institution you attended. And it's important for you to list all university or post-secondary enrollment, even if you attended a university in your home country, even if you're switching to a different program of study when you come to the United States. You will also be asked to list what you were doing during any period of time you were not enrolled at a university or post-secondary institution. So anytime you had a break in your academic enrollment. You'll be asked to let us know if you were working or training or taking a gap year anytime you were not in university. If we think kind of back to the two main things that we're looking at to determine eligibility, all this academic information is used to determine how many of your 10 semester terms of attendance you have previously used and how many you have remaining to compete in the NAI. Secondly, you'll also be asked to provide all of your athletic history. So you'll be asked to list every league, team, or event that you've competed in. And you should list every competitive experience, whether it's professional, amateur, or recreational. And I think Grant has a really good point about this particular area of the Complete Your Profile task.
Yeah, so I just want to point out that what makes the NAI unique in terms of these just outside competitive experiences and leagues and teams and stuff that you've competed in is that unlike other associations in the United States, we do allow students to compete in professional and semi-professional competitions without automatically losing your entire eligibility. There are other associations here that if a student does compete professionally, they immediately lose all their eligibility and they can't compete at all. So again, we just allow an opportunity for you to compete professionally and then still have the opportunity to come in here and play at the NAI.
Awesome. Thanks, Grant. It's super helpful if you could provide an email contact as well for any league, team, or event that you participated in, whether that's the event coordinator, the director of the league, maybe your coach. With the time differences and language barriers, email is the best way for us to reach out to these different competitive experiences if we need to, if there's any additional information that we might need. And again, thinking back to the two things that we're mainly looking at, all this information is used to determine how many of your 4 seasons of competition you have used and how many you might have remaining to compete in the NAI. After you complete your profile, you'll receive some additional tasks on your task list in Play NAI. Probably the most common you will have is some tasks asking you to submit certain academic records. And all international academic records must be submitted to our in-house credential evaluation company known as INCRED. Many NAI institutions use INCRED evaluations for admissions. So ordering an in-credit evaluation can help with both the admissions at your university and the eligibility processes. All academic records can be uploaded electronically through the INCRED portal at incredevals.org. So you don't need to be mailing documents or anything like that directly to INCRED. And then there are a few different types of evaluations you can order depending on your academic history. And particularly if you have been enrolled at any university or post-secondary institution. As Rita mentioned, we'll be sending out this slide deck after this presentation. And you can see here on this chart that it kind of describes different types of students. So were you enrolled at a university? Were you only enrolled at a university in the United States up to this point? Different things like that. So you can use this particular chart or this table to determine what type of evaluation you might need to order from INCRED. All right, so you've registered for Plan AI, you completed your profile and submitted your documents through INCRED. And now the NAI Eligibility Center will review all of this information to determine how many of the 4 seasons of competition you have to compete in and how many of the 10 semester terms of attendance you have. So let's just take a look at the main academic eligibility requirements. These are the things that the NAI Eligibility Center is looking at. And again, can't overemphasize this enough. This is just very general information, but we're going to take a look at real quick. On the left here are the eligibility requirements if you have never attended a university, and on the right are the eligibility requirements if you have attended a university. So we'll start on the left. To be eligible in the NAI, you will need to have a 2.3 or higher high school GPA or secondary school GPA on the US 4.0 scale. And this is kind of why the INCRED evaluation is important. So when you send your high school or secondary school records to INCRED, they'll basically convert your GPA from your home country into the US 4.0 system. And that's what the Eligibility Center is using to determine if you meet this GPA requirement. If you do not have a 2.3 GPA or higher, there's still an opportunity for you to become eligible. You'll need to meet 2 of the 3 following requirements. So that's what's kind of in the bottom left of this table here. So you would need to have a 2.0 or higher high school or secondary school GPA on the US 4.0 scale. We call this class ranking. So a letter written by your principal or headmaster confirming you graduated in the top half of your class. Class ranking, we understand, is a very US-centric idea. This is something that we do here in the United States. But essentially, this is saying who had the best grades in your class and where do you stand in between that. So if there were 10 students in the same class that you graduated with, and you have the best grades, you would be ranked number 1. And so, like I said, class ranking is a very US style thing. But we allow this as an option both to US students and international students as well. You could also alternatively meet just having a qualifying ACT or SAT test score. These are standardized tests that a lot of US students take. And it sounds like Education USA provides education on how to sign up for these tests and things like that as well. So if you have questions about that, Education USA would be a great resource for you to ask about testing dates in your home country and things like that. For the ACT, you will need an 18 or higher. And then for the SAT, you would need to score a 970 or higher. But for these 2 of 3 requirements, it's kind of, you can piece these together. So you can either have the 2.0 GPA, and then a qualifying test score. You could do the 2.0 GPA and a qualifying class rank letter. But you do need to meet 2 of those 3 requirements if you do not have a 2.3 or higher high school GPA. If you have been enrolled at university or a post-secondary institution previously, you still may have seasons of competition in terms of attendance remaining that will allow you to compete in the NAI. But students who do have prior university enrollment generally need to have earned 24 credit hours in their 2 most recent semesters. Again, this is something that NCRED, if you attended a post-secondary institution, in your home country. NCRED would essentially convert the credit hours you earned in your home country into the US system, the credit hour system here. You also would have to have a 2.0 or higher post-secondary GPA, and then you would have to have earned 24 credit hours for every season of competition that you have played in. So like we said, you could potentially have used one of your 4 seasons of competitions by either competing for a different university or maybe through a professional level league. You would need to have 24 credit hours for every one of those seasons that you have used so far. I just want to re-emphasize, Grant mentioned this as well, but keeping in mind that athletics, again, is an extension of your academics, and you will have to meet these academic requirements in order to compete in the NAI. You also have to maintain some of these academic standards as well, because that shows that you're making progress towards a degree, even after you start your time at an NAI university. So those are kind of the just a high level overview of the eligibility requirements that we're looking at. Now we wanted to share with you all just some quick helpful resources that we have for you as you maybe are like navigating this process. And Grant is going to cover the first couple of these.
Yeah, so again, whenever these PowerPoints get sent out, you should be able to click on the headings of most of these slides where they're highlighted in blue, or on the pictures on some of them, and they will take you to that link on our website where you can access these things yourself. So this first resource is just an interactive map of all of our member universities. So on the map, on the left-hand side here, you can see just a map of the United States and then Canada up here. And as you hover over one of our states, it will turn blue like this one here. And then you can click into it and that'll lead you to the image here on the right, which just shows you what NAI institutions are located within that state. And then in parentheses there, it shows you the name of the city it's into. So, as you're making a list of these schools that you're interested in, hopefully this can just visually help you see where some of these institutions are located. The next thing here is our NAI school search tool. So this supplements what I presented on earlier of how you can find the schools that meet your requirements. So there are filters over here for each of those categories that I previously mentioned, things like the enrollment size, public schools, private schools, which schools have certain sports and degrees. And so then you can just click on it and it'll make a drop down, and then you can just enter a variety of things there. But to give an example of this, I just did a quick search here that if I was looking for a school that had baseball and wanted the enrollment size to be between 0 and 1,000, and then also wanted to be a private school, I can put all those filters in and then click search, and then it'll populate more than just these on here, but it'll populate a whole entire list of all schools that meet those requirements. And then you can click into the school's profile here, and it will just show you all the different sports they offer, all the coaches' names, their contact information, and then it will also provide you links to the admissions website for the school, as well as the athletics website as well.
Sweet. And then this is our guide for international student athletes. A lot of the information we're covering today is here in kind of like a documented form as well. It does provide information on how to register, and then just a really quick breakdown of general eligibility requirements. Again, kind of at a really high level, just exactly how we kind of presented today. Our next resource is also related to NCRED. So again, all international academic records have to be submitted through our in-house credential evaluation company, which is NCRED. So we'll be providing you with a resource that has the different evaluation types that you might need depending on your academic history. And then there's also a step-by-step guide for exactly how to order your evaluation and how to then upload the academic records that you have for that. Our next resource is the NAI Academic Published Standards. I think I mentioned this in the presentation, but these are the documents that we use to determine how to basically convert your GPA into the US 4.0 system. These are the evaluation standards that are used both by the NAI Eligibility Center as well as NCRED. You'll see here, this is just Brazil as an example, but this document lists the types of credentials that we would consider comparable to a US high school diploma. If we're saying that to be eligible, you need to have a 2.0 high school GPA, these are the documents that we would be kind of basing that off of. And then it's not shown in the screenshot of this particular document, but on page 2, it did provide a grading scale of how we are converting your home country's GPA into the US 4.0 scale to see if you meet the eligibility requirements.
So we also created this to-do list or task list, whatever you want to call it, that will hopefully help guide you through this process of registering with us on Play AI, and also getting registered on InCred as well. So really the goal of it is just to help you stay organized and to just walk you through everything from creating an account to completing the necessary tasks to receive an eligibility decision. So again, as you're sent this, you should be able to just click on this image here, and it'll open up a PDF that you can download and have to make your own checklist. And then going along with that, we also just have this video here that will walk you through those same steps found on the checklist. And it just, again, just goes through some of those same things and just helps you visually see how to complete the registration process within Play NAIA. Right.
Awesome. Yeah, so that is kind of the end of our presentation. I think we mentioned this multiple times, but we'll be sending the slide deck out to you all, or sending it to Rita to send out to you all. I've just wanted to reiterate that our Grant and I's contact information is at the beginning of this PowerPoint. So if you do have any questions, feel free to email us. And then our customer relations phone number is on there as well, if you ever need to call in. At this time, we're happy to take any questions, and we can start by addressing the 2 questions that came through the chat. So it looks like there's a question essentially about getting in contact with coaches, and I think I would just point back to what Grant just talked about with the school search, where you can enter the different filters. I think the best practice is probably to identify the types of institution that you would want to go to, what degree you want to pursue, and then you'll be able to use the kind of those factors to help filter the institutions. On that interactive map, Grant, can you go back to like what that is called exactly? It's the NAI member school search, I believe is what it's called. But if you click the different tiles for the institutions that meet those criteria that you have put in there, it'll have the contact information you'll be able to link out to the athletics website, where you can find the contact information for the different coaches. So for example, if you clicked on that ACU tile, it would have the link to ACU's athletics webpage. And in most athletic web pages in the US are pretty standardized. You'll be able to select the sport and find the coach's contact information and things like that. Do you have anything to add on that one, Grant?
No, yeah, that's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
That, or yeah, if you just know of some schools, maybe you know like friends or other people that have gone to, just getting on Google or whatever web browser and just searching up, even just searching up NAIA schools in the United States, like might help you find a list, and then that'll easily take you to the school's websites where you can find all sorts of information and contact information. So it's pretty easy and pretty accessible.
Awesome. And then there's a second question here that's essentially about student athlete welfare and scandal prevention. I feel like there's multiple layers, I think, to this answer, but we do have a student health and well-being department within the national office that is promoting student athlete well-being on campuses. They have a mental health toolkit that they send out to our member universities and different things like that. We also have student health and well-being in mind in like our rules of what we require or what we require our universities to follow. So there are things built into our rules that require athletic programs to have like a rest day for their students, so their student athletes are not going 24/7. If there's some sort of scandal, we have a department in the national office here that we actually work pretty closely with, where students or institutions can bring forth different situations, and by committee, there are basically committee bodies within our structure that can help kind of address those different situations. So hopefully that answers that question. we're happy to take any other questions there might be as well.
Pedro, I think you raised your hand. Go ahead and
Yeah.
ask the question.
Yes, I guess I'll do a live question. So when talking to students that might be interested in pursuing, an academic and athletic career in the States in the university level, do you think it's recommendable for them to also attend camps throughout their high school? Uh, if they have the opportunity to go to the States for a summer or winter? If so, what can you say about that? About possible camps, whether that is soccer, football, whatever the sport? And do you think it's better for them to choose already within the institutions that they are interested in? That's not as relevant. I just wanted to know your opinion on that.
Yeah, I think it's very beneficial. I mean, one, they can just come over and see what it's like in the States. I mean, just, if it is a camp or something at a college or university, they can visually see what that looks like. But also, yeah, I maybe can't speak on every single sport, but sometimes at those camps, college coaches maybe that aren't are the ones that are running the camp, but also maybe sometimes college coaches from other schools might show up and kind of watch those and stuff. So I think it's just a really good way for them to just get connected with people and network. And maybe it's not a school they're interested in, but they can still have an opportunity to talk with a coach or talk with athletes or something at that school, and just get to know things and just learn from it. I think, if anything, that would be a huge takeaway, just to continue to ask people questions in person and to just learn from it. So I would really recommend that if that's something they were interested in doing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I see some education USA advisors, Pedro, one of them. Feel free to ask questions on behalf of your students as well.
Yes, I would like to make a question. Since I've heard from many, not, I'm sorry,
Rita,
not, yes,
yes,
now,
thank you.
now I know.
Go ahead.
Yes, I saw your face. I'm sorry. Good afternoon to everybody. My question comes and is the reflection that I heard from many parents here in Colombia. I'm based in Cali. And as you may know, we have a lot of soccer here and aspiration to be a soccer player. And many parents have asked me, what about those fairs or events where coaches come down to our countries to do like a pre-selection of possible students or possible athletes? Do you happen to know something about that, or do you have any recommendation of be part of those fairs?
Josh, if I was going to say something, if you have something first, I'll
Go
add
for it,
on to
Grant.
whatever you have to say.
Go for it.
Okay. I don't know a ton about it, but so Josh, if you do, maybe you can chime in. But again, the same as the other question, where students going to the US to do that kind of thing, I would recommend, yeah, just any opportunity they have in person to meet someone face to face and ask questions, is going to be really beneficial. And, again, it doesn't, if a specific coach from a specific school or something's coming down and they're not even interested in that, they can still ask other questions that are generalized just about college in the United States and playing sports in the United States. But it just gets an opportunity for them to just show themselves and just, kind of show their interest. But Josh, I don't know if you have any other thoughts about that or have more knowledge of those things.
Yeah, I think like the answer to the question is exactly what Grant said, is the more visibility you can get in front of coaches, the better. I agree with Grant, is even if it's not he's not a coach from an institution that a student is particularly interested in, it's still worth going to. I think when you are seeing coaches coming from the US to do these type of like clinics and camps like that, it means that they already have in-country networks and pipelines that they're using. So that particular coach probably has recruited in the past Colombian students. So there's something, I think that might speak to a little bit about like why they're there. And so that might be an advantage to the student to attend those camps and things like that.
And coaches all know each other too here in the States.
Yeah.
So a coach comes down there, they know they have a bunch of friends they know back here in the States that they can talk to and communicate with and be like, well, here's some other students that might be like interested in like just building contacts and networks. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? We like the hearts, Brita.
Yeah.
There's a question in the chat. Marcos, don't you want to ask that question yourself? Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, Grant, Josh. Thank you, first of all, for taking your time to be here with us. My question is, I have a student who is on her senior year, and she's thinking about applying right now. Do you think that she still has a decent chance of getting a scholarship, considering that she has, less time to contact coaches and send informations and things like that?
Yeah, for sure. So we have recently started working on fall 2025 eligibility, like for students that are coming in fall 2025. And so now is actually kind of like a good time for a lot of that, making those connections and stuff. It's, I think Grant might be able to speak to this a little bit more. It might be a little bit later, but it is still like on coaches' minds and stuff right now is like, this is kind of the time where international students are starting to come through the eligibility process.
Yeah, it's really just depends. It's a school by school scenario where some schools might have filled their roster, so to speak. But there are still coaches out there that are going to be looking to add more student athletes onto their roster for this fall, even. So it never hurts to just go ahead and reach out. I mean, the worst they can do is just say, no, sorry, we're not able to give you a whole lot of scholarship, but there's still an opportunity. But they might find someone who actually says, oh yeah, like I'm still looking for a few people. So we have a bunch of scholarship money to still give out for this next year. So it never hurts to just reach out and just see what's out there.
Yeah. And it's not, there's not really a way to super know this or anything, but something to keep in mind is there might be students like transferring. So it might open like more roster spots and things like that. So there's just different factors that are kind of going on that are a little bit more behind the scenes, but like exactly to Grant's point is it just does not hurt to reach out and see about the possibilities.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so we're coming to the end. I want to thank both Josh and Grant for this super helpful presentation for all of us. Again, for those of you that arrived late, we will be sending you the recording of this session for those of you that register and also the slides. We're also going to put on social media, for anybody that wants to find out more about sports scholarships to be able to. And please, forward your students also to this social media, Education USA. We are present in many of your countries, as you know. I'm going to put in some of the social medias in Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Paraguay, Uruguay. My colleague, Ana, will do so for the Andean region, Colombia, Venezuela, Peru, Ecuador, and Bolivia. So Josh and Grant, final words, and everybody, thank you so much. The floor is back to you.
Yeah, we really do just appreciate the time today. I do think like the NAIA is a really unique opportunity for international students because they will have like a really great support network on campuses because of the small sizes and things like that. And it is just like a great experience. I know a lot of students they want to pursue a degree here, and then it just like really helps that they're able to also play a sport that they love while doing it.
All
Anything,
right,
Grant?
thank you,
Thank you.
Grant.
Okay.
No, just thank you for the time. And I really just appreciate the opportunity to get on here and share some of our own experiences and just things that can hopefully help a lot of you and students you're helping out, but then all the students and parents that hopped on here as well. Just hope that we were able to help you out a little bit.
All right. I think we have a final question. If you want to take it, Josh and Grant. Sorry, it just popped up.
Yeah, I think some of the resources that we've included in the slide deck would be great for you to start looking at possible universities you might be interested in that are in the NAI. And then I would also encourage you to look at the NAI academic published standards, which will be linked in the slide deck as well, for you to see kind of where you are academically in your country, like in your particular education system.
All right. And
our
also
email
look for
contacts are here, so.
Yeah, and look for Education USA if you need a little bit more hand-holding, so I don't know, Vinicius, where you're based, but do look for the offices. But definitely you have the contacts for Josh and Grant, and they'll be the go-to people for that. All right, thank you so much. Have a wonderful end of the day, everybody. And again, Josh and Grant, my hat is off to you. Bye.
Thank you, bye.
Bye.
Gracias por la información. Saludos.
Thank you so much. Bye.